Russia's President Vladimir Putin will formally declare the annexation of 4 Ukrainian territories. These are live visuals coming from Moscow. As expected, the Russian President Vladimir Putin will be declaring the annexation of 4 Ukrainian territories. Remember, as we've been reporting on Beyond World is One, the West has called these so-called referendums held by Russia a sham. They've likened it to an event similar to what happened in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. And this ceremony that is currently live is happening after the referendums took place in 4 particular Ukrainian areas. And the Russian president, from the reports we are seeing, will be meeting the Russian-backed leaders of these 4 controversial territories. Moscow had previously said that voters in these 4 regions had widely supported the annexation. Let's give you some more details about these 4 regions. These include Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. And the Kremlin earlier said that an attack on any annexed territory would essentially be an attack on Russia. For all our viewers tuning in to Beyond at this hour, these are live visuals coming from Moscow, where President Vladimir Putin is currently expected to sign agreements which will formally absorb into Russia thousands of square miles of Ukrainian territory in what is being termed as the largest forcible annexation of land in Europe since 1945. This is the official signing ceremony, as it has been called, where the annexation agreements are being signed. And this is 3 days after sham referendums, as the West termed them, which concluded in the occupied territories of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson. Some more developments that followed shortly after the referendums were held. Finland, for one, said that it will close its borders to Russian tourists until further notice. This is the Russian President Vladimir Putin essentially recognizing the independence of the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions, and this is a formality as they are now officially annexed. The report suggests that Russian-backed leaders from the 4 occupied Ukrainian territories are in attendance at this ceremony. It is being hosted by President Vladimir Putin. Earlier in the day, we saw the head of the Russian-backed administration in Zaporizhia sharing an image of himself alongside counterparts in the 3 other regions which have now officially been absorbed into Russian territory. That is what Moscow says. These so-called referendums were held by Russian-backed officials in eastern and southern Ukraine on joining Russia. Let's give you a little bit of background. These votes are considered illegal under international law and have been dismissed by Ukraine and Western nations. They have been called a sham. This is a ceremony which formally absorbs into Russia thousands of square miles of Ukrainian regions, Ukrainian territory, a move that has been condemned by the West and Ukraine. And it has been called the largest forcible annexation of land in Europe since 1945. It's similar to the event that took place in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. Vladimir Putin says that the people have made their choice clear. He says it is based, I'm quoting, on your historic unity. The Russian president adds that we are winning the people's battle. He says that there are 4 new regions of Russia. This is essentially him saying that we are absorbing the 4 regions that were annexed into Russian territories. And the 4 regions that were annexed were Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk and Luhansk. Vladimir Putin says that it's the people's choice to join Russia. These are live visuals coming from the ceremony which is currently underway in Moscow, where Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be signing agreements which will formalize the annexation of the 4 Ukrainian regions: Kherson, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, Donetsk. The West and Ukraine have called these referendums illegal. They have been termed as a sham, and yet here we are. Criticism has followed across Europe Different leaders have condemned the move, but it remains to be seen if this condemnation will translate into any real action on ground, if it will deter Russia in any which way. It doesn't seem to be happening right now, as the Russian president formally annexes Ukrainian territories in a ceremony that is currently live. It is being attended by the heads of the 4 regions which were annexed by Russia. Russian-backed officials, of course. It is being termed as the largest forcible annexation of land in Europe since 1945. Let's tell you about the fallout of this decision. Finland, for one, said that it will close down its borders to Russian tourists. This follows after the referendums were wrapped up, referendums that were called a sham. They are illegal under international law. The 4 regions in question are Kherson, Zaporizhia, Luhansk and Donetsk, essentially in eastern and southern Ukraine. These regions have now formally been annexed by Russia. That is what this ceremony stands for. We will, of course, also get you reactions from Ukraine, which is expected to follow from the West. There are no surprises. The Russian president was expected to hold this ceremony earlier as well. Photo ops are also expected. Some have already been seen across Twitter. Let's tell you about what the Russian president is currently saying. He says that these referendums happened and people have made their choice. He's putting the onus on the people who have voted in these so-called referendums. He said that the 4 new regions are a part of Russia now, and that this is the will of millions of people who have voted in this referendum. Putin further goes on to say that this is the inherent right of the people. It is based on historic unity. The 4 regions in question here are Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk and Luhansk. Some other big statements coming from the Russian president. He says nobody can destroy us. The trials they have been through generations. He is referring to the people in the separatist regions, which are now, according to the ceremony, officially absorbed into Russia. He says that there are millions still wanting to come back to old Russia, a significant statement. Let's recap a bit for all our viewers who are tuning into Beyond World is One at this hour. This is a live ceremony that is currently taking place in Moscow. The Russian President Vladimir Putin is formally recognizing the annexation of the 4 regions, Kherson, Luhansk, Donetsk and Zaporizhia. A little bit about the symbolism of this ceremony is the fact that this is formally absorbing thousands of squares of miles of Ukrainian territory into Russia. The West has called it the largest forcible annexation of land in Europe since 1945. Remember, we've been reporting on these so-called referendums. The West and Ukraine have called it a sham. They say it is illegal under international law, yet the ceremony is taking place as we speak. Vladimir Putin says that the people have made a clear choice. The referendums happened and the people have made their choice. 4 new regions are now a part of Russia. He's saying that this is the will of millions of people. Earlier in the day, we saw visuals of separatist leaders arriving in Moscow ahead of this very annexation ceremony. We saw pictures shared on Twitter. The head of the Russian-backed administration in the occupied parts of Zaporizhia, Luhansk, Kherson, Donetsk are all in attendance at this ceremony, which is currently live from Moscow. Finland, for one, has opposed the move. The entry of Russian citizens to Finland is closed for tourist visa holders for now. Moscow had earlier said that it will recognize the entirety of the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics within their declared borders of 2014. People have likened what's happening in this war at this stage to what had happened back in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea.